Hello everyone, I am Vinayak Narwade. In UPSC CSE 2020 examination, I have secured All India rank 37 and I have been on the platform for quite a while now. I have taken some special sessions, I have given out some of my strategies, discussions through free YouTube videos, as well as I have also taken a plus course on ethics. So, continuing with this particular collaboration, I'm here to discuss some of the questions which were asked during the combat contest, which is conducted by Unacademy. So, just a brief background about myself. I did my BTech in mechanical engineering from College of Engineering, Pune. Post which I went to the US to pursue my masters in renewable energy systems. I did it from Columbia University, and I also worked in the US for 1 year. Post which I decided to pursue civil services, and I was able to crack this examination in my second attempt. So just to give a brief background about the platform, so as we all know, an academy has a good amount of educators. The top educators like Mronal sir, Pratik Nayak sir, who have been giving out their knowledge and basically guiding aspirants throughout their preparation. As well as an academy is also organizing some combats like this one, the one which we are going to discuss right now. So usually an academy is also giving out prizes such as scholarships and different goodies. So if you want to take a look at these particular combats, please use my code VN37. That is Vinayak Narwade All India Rank 37. You can use this code to avail discounts while joining this particular platform, as well as getting information about my courses and such beautiful contests which are organized by an academy for the benefit of the aspirants. So getting straight to the point, now let's start with discussing some of the questions which were asked by an academy on this combat tests. And I'll be discussing around 15 to 16 questions in the next 30 minutes. I'll be giving out like what is the difficulty level of that particular question and what you need to do to answer such type of questions, right? Um, so without wasting any time, let's start with this particular question number one. So this question is about All India services, as you can see it on the screen, and this is a very simple question which is asked, and one of the most important sources which we all refer for polity is basically Lakshmikant. So if we take a look at the first statement, wherein Rajya Sabha only has the power to all India services, and this is mentioned in Article 312, and it is also mentioned in Article 312 that it has to be not less than two-third members of Rajya Sabha who will be present and voting to pass this particular resolution for a new All India service. So statement one is correct. And if we take a look at statement two, all India services are indeed jointly controlled by central and state governments. If we go to Lakshmikant, to that particular chapter, we can see that the All India services are under immediate control of the state, but the ultimate authority lies with the center. So that's the reason why this particular statement is given. And if we see that both these statements are all right, they are all correct, and hence the answer for this particular question is C. Okay, so इस क्वेश्चन में हमने क्या सीखा? What did we learn from this particular question is that reading Lakshmikant is very important, right? You need to be very well averse with your articles, and not just with the articles, but with also the intricacies, the details which are provided in those articles. For example, the special majority or two-thirds of the members present at voting for the Rajya Sabha. These minute details need to be kept in mind. As I said, this was an easy question, and we will go towards the next question. So this particular question, take 2-3 seconds to read it. But this is from modern history, right? So इसके लिए important source is Spectrum. Okay, so the first statement says that Indians got entry into Legislative Council in 1861, and the second statement says that in Executive Council in 1909. ठीक है, तो if we have taken a good read of Spectrum, then what I would suggest is take like make A4 page notes of these each and every law which is given in Spectrum, or in fact this detailed history is also given in the first few pages of polity. So you can go through that chapters as well, and you can make notes out of them. कि 1861 में क्या हुआ था, what happened in 1909, what were the changes brought in 1935 Act, and try to revise it multiple number of times so that you don't get confused. And such questions are being asked in the examination. For example, a similar question was asked in 2019 prelims. So if we take a look at, if we have the notes ready, we'll understand that yes, indeed in 1861, the Viceroy, there was basically a Parliament of India was brought in during this particular time. So it was during this time that Legislative Council was enacted, and some members were nominated, okay, not elected, but nominated into this particular council. Okay, and similarly, during the 1909 Act, the Government of India Act 1909, which is also called as Morlamento reforms. इसमें they increased the size of executive council, and the first time they had introduced Satyendra Prasad Sinha. He was the first Indian to be inducted into this particular council, executive council. So indeed, both these statements are correct. And what we learn from this particular question, again an easy question, a very factual question. What you need to learn is you need to understand the details of these particular laws from the polity book, from the spectrum book, and you will be very good to answer such type of questions. ठीक है, तो without wasting any time, let's move to question number 3. ठीक है, again it is about Election Commission of India. So a new question about polity once again. तो इसमें उन्होंने पहला स्टेटमेंट दिया है, इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया स्टार्टेड फंक्शनिंग ऑन 26 जनवरी 1950, एंड सेकंड इज ऑल एक्सपेंडिचर इज चार्ज्ड ऑन कंसोलिडेटेड फंड ऑफ इंडिया. So what I would rate this question, I would rate this as a moderate question. Okay. Now why? The second statement is easy, right? You find it in the textbooks. You find it in Lakshmikant that election commission has the expenditure is not charged on the consolidated fund of India. So the statement number 2 is absolutely wrong, right? So it leaves us with option A or option D. Okay. But now, why do I call it moderate? Because the statement number 1 is factual, right? 26 January 1950. So we don't know when exactly ECI started functioning. But if we apply our brains a little bit, okay, our constitutions came into being on 26 January 1950. But if we remember one statement that Indians were voters first and citizens later. Okay, so citizenship was granted by the constitution, which came into being on 26 January 1950. But we had elected our first government well before it, right? So we were voters first. So the Election Commission of India, although it is mentioned in articles, basically, I guess it is 312. But the Election Commission, it functioned well before 26 January 1950. Right. So hence the correct answer is of this particular is 19, answer D. So this is something that you get because certain articles of the constitution, they were indeed enacted before the entire constitution was enacted, and hence the statement 1 is wrong, because the election commission, the 312 article, was enacted on 26th November 1949 itself, and then the remaining part of the constitution was enacted on 26th January 1950. So keep such things in mind. These are tricky questions, and you need to have some other details while answering such type of questions. Okay. Again, a factual question, UPSC can ask such questions, but it may not as well. This question take 3 to 4 seconds to read this particular question. Okay, so it is about district collector, and it is about institution of district collector being made strong. So इसमें पूछा है कि कौन सी कमिटी ने रिकमेंडेशन किया था. तो if you go to polity, Lakshmikant, Indian polity, you'll realize that there's this statement when you read about PRIs, the Panchayati Raj institutions. You'll realize that this Hanumanta committee is highlighted by Lakshmikant, and this is for this whole and sole reason that it was the only committee which was trying to make the institution of district collector stronger. Now, why was it doing that? Because at that particular time, all other committees like B.R. Mehta committee, Ashok Mehta committee, L.M. Singhvi committee, ये सब क्या कह रहे थे कि it should be the grassroots, it should be a democratic process rather than a bureaucratic process with respect to Panchayati Raj institutions. And it was only Hanumanta Rai committee who was telling that DC office should be made stronger. ठीक है. So this is kind of an aberration, and hence this gets asked. ठीक है. So it is important to note down such aberrations. So again, an important learning from this particular question, although a factual one, is the fact that you need to take a look, you need to take a close look at what are the aberrations in that particular in that particular, let's say, topic you are reading. कुछ extremes है क्या? You should have to understand those extremes. You have to keep in mind such extremes, or whether there is an aberration like Hanumanta committee in this particular question. ठीक है. So as rightly pointed out in the explanation, that every other committee was trying to build in democratic control, but Hanumanta committee was basically trying to give more powers to the district collector. ठीक है. तो अगेन नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, अगेन अ क्वेश्चन रिलेटेड टू पॉलिटी. ठीक है. तो इसमें पूछा गया है अबाउट कलेजियम सिस्टम इन इंडिया. तो इसमें कलेजियम सिस्टम हम सबको पता है क्या है. कलेजियम सिस्टम, इट इज बेसिकली द चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया एंड 4 other senior most judges who basically make recommendations to the president for appointment of judges in the Supreme Court, and a similar collegium exists for the high courts. ठीक है. तो हम सबको पता है कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन क्या बोलता है, दैट प्रेसिडेंट विल सिलेक्ट द जजेस अलोंग विथ रिकमेंडेशंस फ्रॉम सीजेआई and any other members which he desires to. So this collegial system was not provided for in the constitution, and there was an attempt made to amend the constitution via the 99th Constitutional Amendment Act, wherein we tried to bring in NJAC, National Judicial Appointment Committee, which was eventually struck down by the Supreme Court for violating the basic structure of the constitution, है ना. तो we are well aware of these things, that collegium is not constitutional. ठीक है. So it was brought about by one of the judges case. It was brought about by the Supreme Court, है ना. So in this particular thing, try to take a look at first judges case. First judges case में क्या कहा था सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने? It said that the president is supreme in appointment of judges. So when he consults the CJI, his decision is not binding on the president. Second judges में it reversed its decision. It said that CJI का decision is important, and it is mandatory for the president to go ahead with the CJI's decisions if he has basically consulted 2 of the senior most judges. And the current collegium system is CJI plus 4, which was brought about in the third judges case. So the answer to this particular question, the collegium system in India got entrenched in the third judges case. ठीक है. The fourth judges case, it struck down the National Judicial Appointment Committee, and it re-emphasized that the collegium system of CJI plus 4 senior most judges will be binding, will be existing, because the NJAC, it violates the basic structure doctrine of the constitution, which was given by the Supreme Court in Keshavananda Bharati case. ठीक है. So you again need to be very well versed with what each case is saying, what with each judgment is saying. ठीक है. So this is something about that particular question. ठीक है. So if you haven't already, just I'll take a little bit of a break here. If you haven't already checked my course on ethics, I have taken a 10-hour crash course on ethics, which will be very useful, because I have given my definitions, my examples, as well as different diagrams, and my approach, overall general strategy for ethics on the Plus platform. And you can use this particular code VN37 to subscribe to that particular course, to subscribe to Unacademy platform, to get some discounts, and to basically get information about any future lectures which I will be conducting on Unacademy. So stay tuned, use this particular code, and if you feel like going through that particular Plus course, you are more than welcome to do that. ठीक है. तो कमिंग बैक टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, कि इंडियन लॉज आर कंप्लीटली अप्लाइड इन विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग जोन्स. अगेन अ वेरी इजी क्वेश्चन, कि टेरिटोरियल वाटर्स जो है, विच इज अप टू 12 nautical miles, it is in these waters that the Indian laws get completely applied. In contiguous zones, there are some restrictions. In exclusive economic zones, your police cannot work. It is only your commercial interests are protected in these cases. So not all of your laws are applied. And high sea is basically beyond 200 nautical miles, wherein none of your laws apply. It is basically governed by international laws. So it is basically the territorial waters. A very easy question, a very factual question. It is just that you need to understand what territorial waters, contiguous zones, EEZ, high seas are. ठीक है ना? So if you have a little bit of idea about these questions, you will be able to answer this thing. Coming to the next question, section 66A. Okay, this is about IT Act, which was recently in news and which has been in news for the past 5, 6, 7 years. So this is again a very easy question if you actually know. Okay, so Shreya Singhal case is the answer of this particular question. Now, why was it in news? ये question क्यों पूछा गया होगा Unacademy mock में? It was in news because despite this section 66A being struck down by the Supreme Court, recently it was newspapers reported that there are a lot of cases which are filed with stating section 66A of IT Act. So what does that state? It states that the judiciary's assignment or judiciary's decision is not being implemented on the ground level. So it was in news because it was saying that the law enforcement agencies like the police, etc., they need to be sensitized, they need to be made aware that certain sections are being struck down by the court, and such sections cannot be utilized basically to arrest people. So that was the reason why this particular section was in news, and that is the reason why we should also be well aware of these particular sections. A simple task for you: whatever questions are given, whatever options B, C, and D are given in this particular question, try to Google them, try to search what this particular thing was. For example, the KS Putta Swami case, it was about right to privacy, है ना? So ऐसे करके if you will be able to even learn through some of your options कि कौन सा options किस चीज के लिए बना है. So that is how you study, that is how you make yourself aware, and that is how you improve your knowledge base. ठीक है? तो let's take a look at the new question, which is from environment, which talks about IPCC. ठीक है? तो let's read the take 4-5 seconds to read this particular question. ठीक है? तो पहले स्टेटमेंट में बताया है IPCC is created by World Meteorological Organization and UNEP, which is a right statement. Most of you know because you may have read this particular environmental book which उसमें दिया हुआ है, and you may be reading it in current affairs as well. ठीक है? Second statement is again factual कि 195 members and India is there. We know India is India is a part of IPCC, but we may not know what is 195 members. ठीक है? Which is such statements usually when UPSC gives like extreme factual statements which generally seem to be true, they may be true. ठीक है ना? There is usually a gut feeling on like 51% they'll be true. ठीक है? So you have to go in such cases with respect to gut feeling. So option 2 is also right. ठीक है? And then Al Gore were jointly awarded Nobel Peace Prize in 2007. This is again a right statement because 2007 में there was also an IPCC report which was brought about. So try to read about it. You will be aware about such reports if you dig a little bit into details in certain cases. ठीक है? So 2007 में this Nobel Peace Prize was given for a particular report which was brought about by the IPCC. So that's why the statement 3 is also correct. So in such questions, the only confusing statement will be statement 2, but again it depends upon your gut feeling if you do not know the exact number of members. ठीक है? So try to go with your gut feeling in such cases, but do not leave such questions blank because we know option 1 is correct, we know option 3 is correct. So here we have two choices, option A or option D. And then in such case, if I was a member, if I was an aspirant trying to answer this particular question, I'll definitely go with D. But I'll definitely answer the question. Even if I answer A, I'll definitely answer it. I will not leave it blank. ठीक है? तो that is what we have. ठीक है? Again, take 2 to 3 seconds to go through this particular thing. If we see that it is again a question related to environment, UNCCT, another UN organization, or a UN, basically what do we say, a contract kind of a thing, and it is talking about land degradation neutrality. So again, if we take a look at first statement, target setting program है land degradation neutrality में, wherein each country is giving out its it is basically an individual as well as a combined effort. So in this particular case, the first thing, it is all right, right? So the first thing is definitely all right. The second thing talks about that land degraded LDN neutral fund was officially launched at UNCCD COP 13. Again, this may be a current affairs based thing, so you need to be aware about these particular stuff. Okay, so again, in this particular case, it should be the answer should be C. Okay, so try to be वेरी वेल एक्वेंटेड विद करंट अफेयर्स. जब करंट अफेयर से कोई क्वेश्चन पूछा जाता है, यूजुअली द केस इज that they will ask you the current affair, like why that particular thing is in news, as well as some static thing related about that particular organization. For example, this particular fund is why this particular organization is in news, or UNCCD is in news, and hence they asked you a static portion about it. So just reading the fact, just reading the context why that particular organization or why that particular segment is in news won't help. You have to also dig in details, and you have to understand the fundamentals, the foundation of that particular thing. Okay, so this is how you go ahead with respect to your current affairs, the context as well as the basics of any particular segment that is in news. Okay, so I will go with respect to the next thing. Again, a question related to geography or environment, whatever you would like to call it. But I chose to discuss this particular question because it is a mapping question, है ना. तो इसमें जब ऐसा कोई क्वेश्चन आता है, तो यू नीड टू हैव अ ब्रॉड आइडिया कि what is asked in this particular question. For example, here it is asked to organize these biospheres from north to south. ठीक है, तो you need to, and since this is biosphere reserves, India has around 18 to 19 biosphere reserves, I guess, and 11 are in the MAB program of UN, like of that international organizations. You know which one I'm talking about. So Seychelles हमें पता है, it is in Andhra Pradesh. Agastya Malai, it is on the border of Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Cold Desert is somewhere in Himachal Pradesh, I guess, and Panna is on the borders of Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. So now what do I know? I 100% sure I know the states, and then I can start thinking about, like, Himachal Pradesh is on the northmost. Okay, so cold deserts should be the first option, and eventually it leaves me only with one particular option, which is option C, and that should be the right answer. ठीक है, तो इस हिसाब से even if you have a broad idea about like which state one particular place falls in, you will be in a better position to answer such things. ठीक है, what I used to do while doing mapping questions, I used to create mnemonics कि कैसे कैसे याद रखूंगा. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, फॉर let's say for mountain ranges, I used to have this napcar. ठीक है, so Nilgiri, Annamalai, Palani, and Cardamom hills. So this is the north to south arrangement of this particular hills. So this is the way I used to do it. You can similarly adopt multiple mnemonics, and you can use it in your preparation with respect to north to south, east to west arrangement. Okay, and that will help you with respect to such questions. Again, I'm mentioning this because this was asked, like one similar question was asked in 2019 examination. Like emission gap report, किसने release किया है? The answer is obviously UNEP. So the answer is A. But why I'm telling you this question is sometimes UPSC goes one step ahead. ठीक है, so UPSC goes one step ahead. It may not just ask you like this report is released by which organization. Okay, it may go ahead like it did in 2019 or 2020 attempt. That what are the indicators in the World Bank releases a report, and what are the indicators which are used in that particular report of ease of doing business. So UPSC can go to such extents. So you need to basically read through at least once or twice through every report what indicators are being used in that particular report. And for example, in Human Development Index, we have पैदा होता पढ़ता पैसे कमाता, which is basically your lifetime expectancy, your schooling, as well as your standard of living. These are some of the indicators with respect to HDI. So you need to understand what indicators each index is being calculated on, especially for reports or indices which are very popular. There may be some reports which may be taken by some NGOs which may not be that popular. So you do not need to go through the indicators of such organizations, but the popular ones, try to read into the indicators of such reports. Okay. um, Again, the next question, we'll shift to economics a little bit here, which is the first statement is, take 3 to 4 seconds to read this particular question. The first statement is fiscal stimulus. It is saying that it is given by the government and monetary expansion is given by the central bank of country. हमें ये पता है, ठीक है. फिजिकल डेफिसिट जब आप कहते हैं, it is basically owed by the government, ठीक है ना. So fiscal is the job of government, and monetary policy committee, we know that it is basically headed by the RBI governor. So we know that monetary policy, monetary expansion, the repo rates, they are given out by this particular committee, and hence it is the role of RBI or the central bank. So that statement is right. Fiscal stimulus necessarily leads to an increase in money supply, whereas monetary expansion generally leads to an increase in high-powered money. Again, this is basically a wrong statement. Why? Because यहाँ पे necessarily this is trying to say extreme. Fiscal stimulus need not necessarily lead to increase in money supply, and monetary expansion may lead to increase in different segments. So it is not, again, generally you cannot say it only leads to increase in high powered money. ठीक है. तो this statement is blatantly wrong. ये कब समझ में आएगा हमें, जब when we know exactly what money supply is, what fiscal stimulus is, what high powered money is. ठीक है. So if you are well aware about such basic terms, about what each particular thing is being said, अगर आपको ये पता है, if you have such sort of an idea, you will definitely do good with respect to such questions. ठीक है. So for questions like economics, this is something very important, that you need to go ahead with conceptual clarities. ठीक है. So try to do these things in such senses. So इसका आंसर क्या होगा? इसका आंसर होगा one only. ठीक है. So see, money supply may not lead to increase in high powered money every time, and fiscal stimulus जो हमने डिस्कस किया था, that is absolutely right. Coming back to the next question, which of the following shows the increasing quality of government expenditure? अब इधर दो चीजें हैं हमें. Usually when we think about government expenditure, we have to understand 2 to 3 things. First of all, there are different heads under which government expenditure is categorized. One is revenue expenditure and other is capital expenditure, है ना. Again, a very easy question. So increasing quality, quality मतलब किसके लिए quality होती है अच्छी? क्वालिटी अच्छी होती है कॉमन आदमी के लिए, राइट. वी आर थिंकिंग अबाउट दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग फ्रॉम कॉमन मैन्स पर्सपेक्टिव, वेदर देर इज समथिंग बीइंग इन something good thing is being done, something long term is being done rather than a short term thing, right. So quality of government expenditure is going to increase if and only if your capital formation, if your infrastructure development is done on a very large scale. So try to think about these things from such point of view. Key long term investments are asked in this particular question. So if you take a look at first statement, more gross capital formation, definitely, because capital formation is infrastructure development which will be increased with such things. Revenue expenditure, revenue expenditure मतलब क्या होता है? It is a consumptive thing. It is on the revenue side. So higher revenue expenditure is not going to increase the quality of government because it is a short-term consumption. It is not leading into long-term capital formation. And consumer subsidies. In this case, we will think from common man point of view, subsidies are going to be beneficial for him, but they are again short-term. What will happen if government is giving more and more subsidies, like it is doing in the agricultural sector? It will reduce its long-term investment. It will reduce the public investment which is needed for the post harvesting requirements. Okay, so on like although the subsidies are increasing, the long term capital formation in that particular sector is decreasing, and hence increasing subsidies is not going to help in increasing the quality of government expenditure. So iska answer hai one only. Okay, so that is how you try to answer such questions. Now again, a conceptual clarity related question from economics. कि what is crowding out? ठीक है. So crowding out क्या होता है? If you know कि sometimes what happens is government is short of money. It is not getting enough taxes, and then it is borrowing from the international market. It is borrowing from the local market. Now what happens if it is borrowing from the local market? है ना. So if it goes and if it borrows from the local market, what happens is it increases the banks find a safe borrower, right? So what happens is a lot of banks loans are being cornered by the government, and then as a result only a small amount of loans remain to be given out to the public, and hence the bank increase their interest rates. So this is what happens when the government is borrowing from the local market, domestic market itself. So it basically it creates a difficult situation. It creates a difficult situation for the local borrowers because it increases the interest rates. So what does it means? So it means that the private expenditure is going to increase. Okay, so it indicates that the government is crowding out the private sector from borrowing from its bank, and hence when we say that government should basically either crowd in investment, that it should invest in such places wherein the initial investment by the government will favor private investments in that particular sector, or it should start borrowing from international firms, or it should start borrowing at low interest rates from outside, so that private sector is still has some sort of room space so that it can borrow from its own from the local banks. So that is what crowding out effect is, and the option to this particular question is A. Okay. If I'll leave the screen on for like 2 to 3 seconds so that you can read through this particular explanation. ठीक है. Again, a new question from economics again, and this question is about twin deficit. है ना? And if you like what you need to do in these particular questions is this is again a very a factual question, an easy question, but you need to understand what this particular each on every deficit mentioned in this particular options is. So I'll be talking about, as we all know, the answer to this particular question is fiscal deficit and current account deficit. Current account deficit, we were in a situation in 1991 wherein we were basically forced to adopt the LPG reforms. ठीक है. And then fiscal deficit, we are always in a state of fiscal deficit, especially due to COVID. Our fiscal deficit has increased blatantly. It has increased to a very high extent. So these two things are basically fiscal deficit and CAD are the reasons for these two deficits occur together, then we call it a twin deficit. So you need to also understand terms about what is balance sheet deficit and savings deficit. Again, another homework for you, try to Google search these things. And I believe whenever like there is a way to learn economics, right? So whenever you learn economics, you have to understand that these concepts which are asked in questions, which are given in the options, you need to try to search them on Google, and then you need to understand those questions, those concepts. It will help you basically attempt different questions which may occur in the examination, which may be present in the examination, but only because you have read through these particular options, you will be able to answer those questions, and then you'll thank me for basically giving you all these particular tips. So try to also go through these options, try to Google search them, and try to understand such concepts. Okay. The last question I believe we'll be discussing. Yes, the last question we'll be discussing today in this particular session is about masala bonds. So I'll give like 3 to 4 seconds for you to go through this particular thing, and then we can go ahead with respect to it. ठीक है. So in this particular question there are two things which are being asked. ठीक है. One is about masala bonds, the other is about external commercial borrowings. So you need to be conceptually very clear about what is masala bond, what is commercial borrowing, ECB. ठीक है. In ECB you take a loan from a foreign bank, so you take that particular loan in dollars, you have to repay it in dollars. ठीक है. इतना, this is very easy, right? What is a masala bond? Masala bond is a bond. Suppose let's say I'm a firm in India and I want to raise money. So according, if I give out masala bonds, I can raise money from the US. Okay, and I'll be raising money in terms of rupees. Okay, so now what is the benefit? Let's say I borrow $1,000 through external commercial borrowings. and suddenly there is when I borrowed this particular money, the price was $1 equal to 50 rupees, and it is 5 years down the line. I'm trying to repay this particular $1,000 loans, and the dollar rate is $1 equal to 70 rupees. So I had borrowed $1,000 at 50,000 rupees, and now I'm repaying 70,000 rupees plus interest plus whatever the things was there. Okay, so this deal was not a very beneficial deal for me. But now let's say if I raise money through masala bonds at $1,000. Okay, at let's $1,000 is 50,000 rupees at that particular time. Even after 5 years, whatever be the price of dollars, since I have raised money in terms of rupees, okay, I'll be giving out only 50,000 rupees to that particular thing. So what has masala bonds helped us? Masala bond has basically isolated us from the currency fluctuation risk. So that is why the answer to this particular question is option A. Okay. So you need to understand such concepts which are very important while going through all those particular things. So I will leave this screen on for like 2 to 3 seconds so that you can actually go through the content. And one very important tip, as I gave it previously, try to go through each and every concept which is asked in, especially in your question papers, especially for economics. Google search them, and it will help you a lot. Okay, so that was from my side on this particular session, wherein we discussed some of the questions which were asked in unacademy combat. Again, I would say, please be keep yourself updated with when these particular combats are held, because there are a good amount of prizes to be given out. And as I have said previously, use my code VN37 to avail discounts to join this particular platform, to even know about which courses I am taking, and to subscribe to my courses, and get to know about whatever future commitments I'll be having or future lectures I'll be taking on this particular platform. So all the best to everyone appearing for this particular examination, and let's crack it. Thank you.